Today's program will last for 50 minutes. We will start with a welcome from Norfolk, then an opening speech from Adyan Foundation Lebanon, move on to a presentation of the local Changemakers course, then an interview with 4 facilitators, and then there will be time to take on your questions and answers, which you have posted in the chat. We would, to be able to see the diversity here and to see who you are, if you would like to, you can change your name to here to your name and the country that you are in. I have already used an abbreviation today, which is called FORB. This stands for Freedom of Religion or Belief. Now I will hand over to Charlotta Norby, Secretary General of SMC Faith in Development, who will give a welcome from the Norfolk Network. Please.
Thank you, Christine. And dear participants, on behalf of the Nordic Ecumenical Network on Freedom of Religion or Belief, the NORFORB, I would like to warmly welcome you to this event, the launch of the local Changemakers course here today. I'm delighted to see so many participants here today and from so many different parts of the world. It's fantastic. So my name is Charlotta Norby, and I'm the Secretary General of SMC Faith in Development, one of the NORFORB members. In 2018, the NORFORB network launched the Freedom of Religion or Belief learning platform, and 3 NORFORB members, that is SMC Faith in Development, Stephanus Alliance from Norway, and CKU from Denmark, share the responsibility for running the platform. Today, the platform provides films on FORB in 18 languages. Over 200 people from across the globe have taken the online facilitated FORB training of the trainers course. And an Arabic version of the course is available online for trainers in the media region, thanks to the Adyan Foundation's collaboration with us. We have online on-demand courses on FORB for all and FORB and gender. And through our partnerships with the Adyan Foundation and Procmura, we're supporting the development of networks for FORB trainers in the MENA and the Sub-Saharan Africa region. All our resources are free for anyone to use for the promotion of FORB for all. Today, we're excited to take a new major step when launching the local Changemakers course. It's a resource that we hope will enable educators, civil society, and faith communities to scale up awareness, raising, skill building, and action to promote FORB for all at the grassroots level in many contexts around the world. We hope that you will find the resources useful in your work for freedom of religion or belief, justice, and peace. We're delighted to publish the resources in English, Arabic, and French here today, and we hope to have more languages that will follow, not least Asian languages. Watch the FORB Learning platform for news on this. Before I hand over, I would like to say a special word of thanks to the reference group, without whose help we wouldn't have been able to develop and test the course. So, using the reaction buttons on your screen, please join me in a digital round of applause for the reference group who are with us here today. And that is Galina Kolonsinskaya from the Interfaith Council in Kyrgyzstan, Hala Farid Faris from Egypt, Haman Haddad from the Takarab for Civil Society Development in Jordan, Hidayah Maulidi Duda from Zanzibar Interfaith Center in Tanzania, Irfan Engineer from the Center for Study of Society and Secularism in India, Reverend Jimmy Sormin from the Communion of Churches in Indonesia, Melissa Nguyen from the Vietnam Freedom of Religion or Belief Roundtable, Mike Gabriel from the National Christian Evangelical Alliance of Sri Lanka, Temina Kazi, independent FORB consultant and trainer from the UK, and finally, Reverend Okoha Ngwobia from the Presbyterian Church of Nigeria. A big thank you to all of you. And now back to Christine.
Thanks, Charlotta. It's great to see all of you. Now, I'd like to introduce our opening speaker. Anna Maria Dow is Head of Research and Courses Unit at Adian Foundation in Lebanon, where she, amongst other things, coordinates the network of FORB trainers across the MENA region. She is also Deputy Coordinator of the Interfaith Youth Committee of Religions for Peace and holds an MA in Conflict Resolution in Divided Societies. Anna Maria, we look forward to hearing your thoughts. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Christine. Esteemed colleagues, friends, and changemakers, it is an honor to be among you today. Over the past couple of years, organizations all over the world, and especially in the MENA region, have been working tirelessly to promote freedom of religion and belief. With millions of people worldwide facing persecution because of what they believe in, it is important that us, changemakers, work on raising awareness, transforming attitudes, and building skills within our local communities. Through reaching people around us, in the workplace, in schools, in neighborhoods, and even in places of worship, we are able to tackle FORB violations together in order to celebrate diversity, protect human dignity, and rejoice in solidarity. It has been a pleasure as the head of the Research and Courses Unit at Adian Foundation to contribute to the creation of a network of activists on FORB in the MENA, and I see that some of those members are with us today, and to witness how local leaders are seeking to create just and inclusive societies, not only through protecting FORB, but also through actively aiming to reach the Sustainable Development Goals, which in fact are closely intertwined. From Lebanon to Iraq to Yemen and Tunisia, peace-building actors, interfaith dialogue actors, and FORB actors are doing their own thing and seeking new ways to create a society that they dream of living in. Despite the fact that we strongly believe in the contextualization and localization of methods, we also trust that bringing these different approaches together can and will make our work stronger. And this is what the Local Changemakers course is trying to do. By providing a concrete tool that can help actors integrate a rights-based approach to FORB in their work, while leaving them enough leeway to integrate their own values, knowledge, and examples, activists feel more empowered to promote FORB in their local communities. Working with a diverse group of changemakers over the years, we did notice that there has been a lack of access to accessible and easy-to-use resources to help community educators, facilitators, and faith communities that might have no to little experience in tackling issues related to FORB, because it is not something that was quite worked on in the MENA region, to raise awareness and build skills on the grassroots level. Even if those resources exist, they are sometimes written in languages that do not resonate with local communities, and their content often lacks a local perspective, which is really important when talking about human rights, development, conflict, and peace. This course overcomes these obstacles and helps people take the first step in becoming a FORB facilitator. Since it is translated in different languages and gives guidance and space to add different and new examples, changemakers would feel more at ease in using these resources and making them their own. For instance, following the launch of the course, we plan to share the material with all of our FORB network members who are actively running workshops, webinars, and training sessions in their respective countries. In addition to that, we plan to integrate some elements in our running FORB course in Arabic, which is implemented in partnership with Stephanus Alliance, while giving them a local twist. Last but not least, we also seek to highlight some of the exercises by adding them to our online community of practice, a space on Teach Coexistence, Adian's e-learning platform, accessible to over 100 members within our network. By doing that, we hope that these resources would be used across the MENA region and beyond. The methods used might be different, but the desired result would be the same, promoting and protecting freedom of religion and belief. Today, we can all play a role in change. We can use the materials ourselves, we can share the knowledge with our networks, and most importantly, we can continue to build the capacities of people around us through carrying our awareness and skill building sessions in our local communities. This is why translating these resources into as many languages as possible is important, And we do hope that funders will make that possible. Let's give all people the voice that they deserve. Last but not least, I do hope that similar initiatives continue so we can all work together for all human beings, for their rights, for their dignity, and for their future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anna. Now it is time for us to hear from the author behind the Local Changemakers course, Catherine Cash, who works as learning resource developer for the Forb learning platform. Catherine, I would love if you could walk us through the Local Changemakers course. What does it cover? Who is it for? And how did it come about? Please. Sorry, you are muted, Catherine.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So yes, we'll start again then. Thanks, Christine. 2 years ago, I was given a task to develop a set of course materials to raise awareness of and inspire action to promote freedom of religion or belief for all at the community level, anywhere in the world. Top priorities were accessibility for grassroots audiences, that it should be easily adaptable to local contexts, and that any competent facilitator should be able to use it without the need for the facilitator to have any significant prior knowledge of human rights in general or freedom of religion or belief in particular. Now, it's been a mammoth task, but the reference group and I are delighted to see so many people from across the globe here today at the launch of the Local Changemakers course. The Local Changemakers course is a set of downloadable course materials that provides everything a competent facilitator needs to run a series of 9 face-to-face workshops on freedom of religion or belief at the grassroots level. And as far as we're aware, this is the first comprehensive Forb curriculum published for grassroots level audiences. Now, perhaps I should begin by saying that the materials are free of charge for any person or organization to download, use, and adapt in any way you find helpful, running the course in full or picking and choosing your favorite exercises to include in your pre-existing peace building or interreligious dialogue programs. You can find absolutely everything on our website, and there's a direct link in the chat that my colleagues are going to share. At the moment, the resources are available in English, French, and Arabic, but we very much hope that funders will enable us to provide them in more languages, not least for audiences in Asia. I know we have a lot of participants from Asia today. These resources are intended for the grassroots level, and they are only accessible if they're accessible in languages that are spoken at the grassroots level. But we hope that Urdu will be coming soon. So the course has 4 aims. Firstly, to help communities recognize and appreciate diversity. Secondly, to help communities understand and value human rights broadly and freedom of religion or belief specifically. Thirdly, to identify problems for freedom of religion or belief in their own local community, and then to find ways to tackle those problems together. Now, the course is designed for people who are concerned about problems related to freedom of religion or belief in their local community and want to find ways to make a difference. It requires no previous knowledge, experience, or even acceptance of human rights from participants. What is needed is an open mind and an interest in helping to build communities that are characterized by peaceful coexistence and equality, and a willingness to engage in an interactive process of mutual learning and reflection. When we began the writing process, the reference group and we developed a set of characters that we imagined might participate in the course. For example, we imagined a mother from a religious majority community in Asia who's worried about her son getting involved in acts of hate towards minorities that are being whipped up in the local community. We imagined a rural young woman in Africa who's concerned about religious justifications being used for gender-based violence. And we imagined a minority young man in the Middle East or in Europe who's frustrated by the discrimination his community faces and wants to make a difference but doesn't know how. When thinking about our imagined participants, we made the following assumptions. Not everyone is literate, so the course needs to work for people who have limited literacy. Secondly, most participants know very little about human rights, and some may have objections to human rights. Thirdly, we know that faith-based identities, traditions, and beliefs will be important to most participants. Fourthly, we assume that freedom of religion or belief is a sensitive topic and that some of the participants will have painful experiences of violations of the right. And finally, we assume that everyone, everywhere, has prejudices, consciously or unconsciously, and that we can only overcome those by recognizing and reflecting on them. Based on this understanding, we've tried to bring together peace building, interfaith dialogue, and human rights-based approaches. And we believe that these three approaches belong together. And we've chosen a methodology that's based on interactive experiential learning using exercises that actively draw upon participants' life experiences and contexts and encourage personal reflection so that in the exercises, they're kind of organically contextualized. For example, the session introducing human rights begins with a practical exercise that helps participants reflect on what they need in order to have a dignified life. It connects human dignity to human needs to human rights, and human rights to human responsibilities, helping participants to recognize that human rights are actually important to them. We've also chosen to focus on storytelling and visual communication. For example, the session introducing freedom of religion or belief introduces the topic indirectly at first, through a story tale and a discussion exercise that together enable people to reflect over whether they value the things that freedom of religion or belief protects. Rights to think for themselves, to believe, to belong, to question, to change their ideas, and to refuse to go against their inner convictions. Asking open-ended questions about whether these rights are important both for individuals and for society. The course includes 9 two-hour sessions, and it's structured in 2 parts. Part 1, which is sessions 1 to 5, focuses on developing knowledge and attitudes so that our heads and hearts are ready to become FORB changemakers. Participants learn about and explore their attitudes towards human rights and freedom of religion or belief, and reflect on their attitudes towards people whose identities differ from their own. They also learn to conduct a community-level FORB context analysis. In part 2 of the course, which is sessions 6 to 9, participants learn about a wide range of tactics or methods that they can use to promote FORB and other rights at the community level, and are guided through a process of action planning for a freedom of religion or belief problem that they identify in their community. And these sessions focus on developing skills and action. So the course includes the 4 building blocks of human rights education: knowledge, attitudes, skills, and action. And speaking of human rights education, let's think about our educators. So who can facilitate the course? The aim we set out with was for any competent facilitator to be able to pick up the materials, prepare the sessions, and run the course. And we saw this as being an essential prerequisite to the course's ability to enable awareness raising on freedom of religion or belief to be scaled up and popularized. 4 members of the reference group have tested the course in India, Jordan, Nigeria, and Tanzania, and you'll be able to hear from them in a few minutes. But I'd like to share one story that really encouraged me. Hidayah ran the course on Zanzibar in Tanzania, and one of her participants was the leader of a local girls' club. And at the end of the course, this young leader told Hidayah that she wanted to run the Changemakers course with her girls' club. Now, hearing that a regular girls' club leader in Zanzibar thinks that she can run the course herself, that made me really happy. You don't need to be knowledgeable about human rights or freedom of religion or belief to be able to facilitate the course. There are some short, easy to understand presentations, but scripts and PowerPoints for these are provided. The facilitator's role is not to be an expert, but to guide participants through a process in which they and the participants learn together. What the facilitator needs most is sensitivity to the context and the ability to judge if some issues are too sensitive or dangerous to discuss, and to adapt the process accordingly, and to handle group dynamics when sensitivities or tensions arise. Everything the facilitator needs is provided to make everything as easy as possible to run. And some resources are supplied in Word and PowerPoint formats to enable facilitators to put things in their own words and add local examples or translate it. It's our hope that this kind of easy to use, flexible approach will enable grassroots level human rights education on FORB to be scaled up. So what's the course like? Well, you should ask the facilitators, but I'd say it's fun. It includes lots of variety. We've got group exercises, drawing exercises, drama exercises, discussions, storytelling, energizers, and evaluation exercises. There's about 30 exercises in all. In fact, the course materials actually comprise a package of about 36 documents, including a comprehensive facilitator's guide, 7 presentation scripts, 9 PowerPoints, an original FORB story tale, 3 sets of posters, 2 sets of game cards, handouts, and a course certificate. And everything is designed to be easy to print out and photocopy in black and white or in color, depending on what resources you have available to you. One valuable resource I'd like to point out is the posters on tactics for promoting freedom of religion or belief, which highlights 15 different ways to promote FORB, together with stories of people doing just that in their community, people from right across the globe. Another important element of the facilitator's guide is the responding to tricky questions section, which lists a series of common objections to human rights and to freedom of religion or belief, and provides suggestions for ways for facilitators to respond to those objections. I think that's a really useful resource. That's all I've got time for, but I'd like to end by encouraging you to take some time to do 4 things. Firstly, please do look through the materials and think about how you and your organization or your faith community could use them. Secondly, please share the resources with as many people as possible. And if anyone asks, yeah, but is it okay for me to use this in my classroom or in my faith community or in my girls' club? The answer is yes. No permission is needed. This material has a Creative Commons license. Take it and use it. Number 3, stay in touch. Please share your experiences of using the materials and any outcomes that you have. Sign up for our newsletter so that we can keep you up to date with new language versions of the course and with other courses and resources that we publish. And fourthly, help us to get in touch with networks in your country, networks that are working on interfaith dialogue, on peace building, on human rights, or on freedom of religion or belief specifically. We'd really like to link up to those networks. Thank you very much. Let's make change together.
Thanks, Catherine. I now like to welcome 4 people who have tested the course with grassroots level audiences in their local communities. So let us warmly receive Irfan Engineer from the Center for Study of Society and Secularism in India, Okoa Nugwabia from the Presbyterian Church in Nigeria, Hidayah Dude from Zanzibar Interfaith Center in Tanzania, and Hamam Haddad from Takarub for Civil Society Development, Jordan. Thank you really much for joining us today. So I would like to pose my first question to Okoa. What do you think was the most valuable thing about the course from the perspective of the participants?
Thank you very much, Christina. From the perspective of the participants, the most important thing was the knowledge that because before the course, my participants weren't aware that there are a lot of fault violations on day-to-day living. And during the course provided this platform for them to see the various violations we do every day without knowing that we are violating this FOP in the home, in the school, in the offices. Most of them were young people. Some of them they do against themselves. They weren't aware that they were violating FOP, like not giving one another safe space to coexist or safe space to express themselves. Now, in the course of the practical session, we also realized that the course material have the enabling tool, available tool that will help us to also overcome various forms of violation. All the tools that will help us to triumph over the violations we do on day-to-day basis are available on the course. So in other words, we were aware of our violations, and we also got the solution to solve all the problems. The solutions are readily available and very, very easy to apply in day-to-day living. So that's a major take-home from my point of view of my participants.
This is really interesting that the course actually helped to raise awareness and make people aware of the daily experiences for violations and how to tackle it. Thank you for sharing. Irfan, I would love to move on to you because your organization has run the course a couple of times, and you have had very diverse groups of participants. So what is it about the course that led you to integrate it into the work of your organization?
Thank you for asking that question, Christine. We ran this course a couple of times, and it was extremely easy to understand and run the course. The facilitators read it and ran it. They could understand it very easily and run it. The second thing which helped us was that the course I found is relevant for India. And everyone will find it relevant for their own country, their own context. The course thinks of diverse situations, and we could easily contextualize, could easily sense those things. The feedback that we got from the participants was that it helped them understand what freedom of religion or belief is. They had never thought about it that way. Particularly those from the majority community also realized that what minorities are going through, or all those whose freedom of religion or beliefs are denied and violated. And I could see the attitudes change. People develop a better understanding, better empathy, and supporting. And I'm sure they would promote freedom of religion. All the participants, or some of the participants, would promote freedom of religion or belief in their own local areas.
Thank you so much for sharing, Irfan. It's great to hear that the course can be relevant for so many different contexts, and that you found it useful and enlightening with your participants as well. Thank you. You talked about diversity, and that leads me to the next question, which I would like to pose to Hidayah, because the world is very diverse, and there are different problems that we face in different places for freedom of religion or belief. But based on your experiences of running the course, how easy is it in practice for facilitators to contextualize the course contents to make it relevant for participants? Did you face any challenges with this, Hidayah?
Thank you, Christine, for your question. Really, because the course provides us with all materials that we need, with all things the facilitator guide can show you each and everything that you need to present. And it is true, you don't have to be an expert on human rights or even on freedom of religion or belief to present, to facilitate the course. Only thing that you have to do is take your time, prepare yourself, go through the facilitator's guide and prepare yourself. And that is the only thing that you could make it easier to go through the course. And I faced some challenges for some questions, really sensitive questions, but the course also give us questions that might appear while you are doing facilitation. So also you have to prepare yourself, go through the questions and try to read them and try to go through them. And really it's like you could answer, but also you could ask other people to answer in the class. And it's true, you might find that in your class that there are other people who know better, who know the answers than you, and you can just let them answer, or you can say, I don't know about this, and it's okay, because you are a facilitator, not a teacher or presenter or something like that. So you have to be only a facilitator and prepare yourself. The PowerPoint, the materials, if you just go through them, is like easiest things to do in the course. And it was really amazing. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. And this is a very important point, I think, which you highlight there, that you do not need to be a teacher or a lecturer or an expert to hold this, which is, but you just need to facilitate the dialogues and the conversations. Hammam, I would love to hear from you as well, because the local Changemakers course, as you all know, it has a very right-based approach, but it also is dialogue-based and uses peace-building approaches. And we are sometimes asked if a rights-based approach is to this kind of awareness raising and peace building can be effective in contexts that are very traditional or highly religious, where maybe the language of human rights can be a bit sensitive or not necessarily accepted. So Hammam, in the group that you led, there were participants I've heard from 4 different faith backgrounds. Right. Did you or your participants find it the course's approach helpful, or was it problematic?
Actually, it was like the course was very diverse, like among the community. Like first of all, I mean, I'm really grateful to be part of this great achievement. It was like and like I'm a bit sad that to summarize all of this, like almost 2 years experience in 2 minutes. But at the same time, like of course that like what we believe is, and what we saw during this experience and this practice, like there is a need in our communities. There's a real need in our communities that to have such a manual to be translated in different languages, and to be like I can say like an easy book that can anyone read and can like deal with it and facilitate it in a way or another, like if they have like some kind of skills. Like of course we have like some ups and downs, like discussion, and that's very healthy. I believe like this is really healthy during the training to have different kind of perspective. At the same time, like also like it was very like it is very sensitive sometimes when it comes to communities, like the religious communities, and like some I can say like tribal communities, and like to try to promote human rights, because sometimes this is against people understanding for their religion, and this is against people understanding, against their like tribe rules, I can say. So like we have to play around. Sometimes you have to give examples to show people like where's our priority, where we can like set our like our values, what our sacred values, where so people they can they can at the end define what's the priority for them. And like it was a great experience. Thank you very much.
Thank you for sharing. It's so interesting to hear from you all, coming from different corners of the world, and seeing how the course has been helpful for you and useful. So you will stay with us for a bit longer. We will now take some time to answer your questions. Thank you very much to the reference group. As we are now nearing the break, I would encourage you all to take 2 minutes now and share with us in the chat if you now got any ideas or thoughts of how you would think that the resources can be useful in your context, or if you have any ideas for how to disseminate it or to use the resources. Thank you. And all the resources can be found on our website. The direct links to the course in all 3 languages have been posted in the chat. So I just want to say thank you all for sharing your ideas, and thank you for listening and for speaking. We are always eager to hear from you. So please don't be shy to follow up and follow through on your ideas after the session, and let us know how it goes. Because in the end, it is in your hands that the local Changemakers course can begin to mean something and make a difference. A big thank you to everyone who has contributed and participated in the launch today. And a special thanks again to our dear reference group who has helped us create the course. To those of you who are not attending the workshop session afterwards, thank you very much and goodbye. And for those of you who will attend the workshop, we will now have a 10 minutes break. Please don't leave the room, just switch off your microphone, and I will see you in 10 short minutes. Thank you. Welcome to the Facilitators workshop in connection with the launch of the local Changemakers course. A special welcome to those of you who didn't take part in the first part of the launch event before the break. My name is Christine Tveit, and I work for Stephanus Alliance International with the Forb Learning Platform project. If you are looking for translation to French or Arabic, please click the globe button on the bottom of your screen to select your language. If you have any technical difficulties or need any help, then please just post your questions in the chat and we will be happy to assist you. So the purpose of this workshop is to give facilitators a brief taste of a few of the exercises included in the course and for you to ask questions. And we'll be doing some of that in Plenary and some in groups, so it's going to be a lot of fun. We have actually been overwhelmed with the interest in this workshop, which means we are a very large group today. That is really exciting, but it does also pose some limitations on the types of interactivities that we may have. So we will be having 2 slots of group work where you'll have the chance to talk to your peers in the room. But otherwise, we would ask you to please use the chat and not your microphone to pose questions or share any reflections you got. And we'll try to pick up on the questions along the way and during the Q&A session near the end of this time together. So please keep your microphone off unless you are in the group work. We will not be going through the aims, structure, and target audience of the course right now, as we did that in the first hour of the session. So if you only just joined us and are curious about these things, please either read the answers in the Facilitators guidebook or ask questions in the chat. Our chat monitors will do their best to answer your questions, and you can ask in English, French, or Arabic. All course materials are to be found on our website, and the link is also posted in the chat. So one final word before we move on. We say FORB a lot, and this stands for freedom of religion or belief. I'd now like to hand over to Catherine Cash of the FORB Learning Platform, who is the author of the course. Please, Catherine, go ahead.
Thanks, Christina. Well, first, let's meet the reference group who helped me to develop the course and who are going to help us to get a taste of the course today, presenting together with me. So reference group members, can you please give me a wave when I say your name? We have Hamam Haddad from Taqarrub for Civil Society Development in Jordan. We have Hidayah Duda from Zanzibar Interfaith Center in Tanzania. We have Irfan Engineer from the Center for the Study of Society and Secularism in India. We've got Reverend Jimmy Sormin of the Communion of Churches in Indonesia. We have Mike Gabriel of the National Christian Evangelical Alliance of Sri Lanka. We have Tamina Kazi, an independent FORB consultant and trainer from the UK. Reverend Ukua Ngobia of the Presbyterian Church of Nigeria. And then we have another 3 members who are not on the screen here. We have Hala from Egypt, and we have Melissa Nguyen of the Vietnam Freedom of Religion or Belief Roundtable, and we have Galina Kolodzinskaya of the Interfaith Council in Kyrgyzstan, who sadly couldn't join us today because she's traveling. Thanks so much to all of you for your patience and hard work in helping us to develop and test the course. We really could not have done it without you. Now, with no further ado, I'm going to hand over to Jimmy and Tamina, who are going to introduce our first exercise.
Thanks, Catherine. So let's get started. The local Changemakers course includes 9 2-hour sessions that take participants through the process of human rights education, focusing on knowledge and awareness, transforming attitudes, building skills, and preparing for action. It involves a gradual process of experiential learning and reflection, with lots of different types of interactive exercise that draw upon participants' daily lives and experiences.
Session 2 introduces the right to freedom of religion or belief. Instead of starting with a presentation, it starts with storytelling using a newly written FORB story tale called The Songs of the Flute and the Drum. The story helps people reflect on whether they value the rights that FORB protects. It's about 2 communities affected by prejudice, discrimination, and tensions, and explores how 4 young people try to make a change in their community and how different parts of the community react. We'd like to share an excerpt of the story with you now. When you facilitate the exercise, you can retell the story in your own words or by reading the script, using the illustrations on the PowerPoint or the posters provided in the materials.
The Songs of the Flute and the Drum. The people of the village in the forest were renowned for drumming and dancing. Drumming accompanied daily life, and they believed that the drumming kept their lives in harmony with the spirits of the forest. Although villagers from Drum Village sold their wares at the market in Flute Village, people from the 2 villages did not mix. Drumming was banned in the marketplace, and many stall owners from Flute Village refused to sell to the drummers. Ziana lived in Flute Village. When she was 10, her father fell ill. One evening he called her to him. "My daughter, I will not live for long. Take my flute and wear it so we will always be together." Ziana was shocked. It was not customary for girls to have flutes. But soon she asked herself, why shouldn't I play? And on the night her father died, Ziana took the flute and hung it around her neck. People in Ziana's village often sneered at her because she wore the flute. Whenever she could, Ziana would escape to the forest and play her father's flute. On one such day, Ziana heard a faint drumming. She followed the drum beats to a clearing where a young man was drumming while his sister picked fruit. Hiding behind the trees, Ziana played along on her flute. When the song finished, she stepped into the clearing, and the three chatted and played music until evening fell. Next day, Ziana saw her new friends in front of a tea stall. The stall owner was yelling at them, "Get away, drummer filth!" The stall owner's son, who had been pouring tea for Ono, looked ashamed. Ziana's heart felt heavy as she realized that she and her mother had never bought anything from the drummer's stalls. That night, she talked to her mother about it. Meanwhile, in the tea stall owner's house, a row had broken out when the owner's son, Brone, questioned his father's treatment of the drummers.
If you want to know how the story continues, you'll need to read it in the Facilitators Guide. In the session, it's followed by a discussion exercise. For every exercise in the Facilitators Guide, you can find the following sections that help you to know how to run it. The materials guide you through the process step by step. You can also find tips for facilitation and guidance on answering tricky questions in the materials. Our aim has been to make the resources as easy to use and comprehensive as possible so that any facilitator can pick up the materials, prepare themselves, and run the course. You don't need to have prior knowledge about verb or human rights to run it. But you, as a facilitator, need is more general facilitation skills and sensitivity to your context. For example, the ability to handle group dynamics and tensions, and to assess what is and isn't safe to discuss and to adapt as necessary.
Let's get back to our story tale and the discussion exercise that follows it. In the plenary and in small groups, participants discuss how the events of the story relate to 7 key words that summarize the rights 4 protects and reflect on whether they value those rights. The rights are to think for yourself, to believe, to practice your beliefs, to belong to a community that shares beliefs and practices, to question ideas and practices you think are wrong, to change your ideas and beliefs, and to refuse to go against your inner convictions.
Hidayah, you tested the course in Tanzania. What did your participants think of the story and how did the exercise go?
Thank you, Jimmy. Really, among the best or interesting story in the facilitation in the local Changemakers course is the story of the story of the town. So really, the way that the song of the flute and the drum explain the differences among the people and the need of people how to understand that we are different, but we still have to coexist is really amazing. And you can still see those rights that everyone needs: the right to belong, the right to practice, the right to and it's easier to take this story into reality of freedom of religion or belief. Yes.
Yeah, thank you. And FORB is a quite sensitive topic, I think, or maybe for some of us. Did the indirect approach of using a story make it easier to introduce the topic of FORB?
Yes, it make it easier, and you know, it's like, because we talk about the flute, the drum, but we can take it and understand it as two main religions or two main different culture or tribes. And after the story, like, people get the chance to reflect, to think, and to realize that despite of differences, we still have to coexist. There are things that are always happening in the society, and because of the story, people get the chance to think that, okay, then there are such that doesn't get this because of their differences, but because of the story, like, they learn and understand that everyone has to spend and enjoy the certain rights in the society.
Thanks, Hidayah, Tamina, and Jimmy for that. In session 2, the story and the discussion exercise are followed by a short presentation that refers back to the story to explain what freedom of religion or belief is. And then the session continues with a think, pair, share exercise called Freedom of Religion or Belief in My Day, which uses photos to help participants reflect on how they use the right in their daily lives. And I thought we could try out the think part of that exercise now. So if everyone can please think about a typical day in your life. When and how do you express your thoughts, your beliefs, and your questions, and your sense of religious or non-religious belonging or identity? It could be in the things you eat, or in the things you don't eat. It might be in what you wear, or in what you don't wear. It might be through prayers or rituals, or through celebrations of key moments in life. It might be in what you read. It could be in conversations that you have with your family, your friends, or your colleagues. And it might be in how you bring your kids up. Or it could be in how you serve the community, or engage with issues that concern you in society. Now, in the course, participants have time to reflect on this silently and then in pairs. Now, we don't have time for that today, but I hope that this gave you a little taster of the way in which the course tries to enable people both to appreciate freedom of religion or belief and also to relate to what it means to them in a very everyday and personal sense. I'd now like to hand over to Irfan, the reference group member from India, who's going to help me introduce another exercise for which we're going to have some group work. Irfan, go ahead.
Thanks, Catherine. We are now going to skip forward to session 5 of the course, in which participants do a context analysis exercise called FORB in My Town, in which they map of the state of freedom of religion or belief in their local area. In plenary, participants gather around a flip chart drawing of their area that the facilitator prepares in advance. The drawing needs to have about 10 places on it, like shops, a workshop, a government office, or a bus, places where people might experience violations of FORB. They also have a list of characters in front of them. In the materials, there are in pre-prepared list that stays. For example, majority. woman, and minority religious leader. The facilitator writes this list up on the flip chart, substituting the words majority and minority with whatever applies in their context. So in India, I could write a Hindu woman and a local imam, for example. It's very easy to contextualize.
Now, in the course, this is a plenary brainstorming exercise, and each participant picks one character from the list and talks about what problems they think that character might face in the different places on the map. That could be street harassment, discrimination at work, hate speech, bullying at school, problems in the family or in the faith community. And one by one, the participants share their ideas, and the problems are written up on the map next to the places where they might happen, creating a map of freedom of religion or belief violations in their area, as experienced by all different kinds of members of the community. Now, the exercise aims to help people think about freedom of religion or belief for all, and to see the dynamics of freedom of religion or belief violations in the everyday life of their community, thinking about different belief groups, women and men, faith leaders, and ordinary members. Hammam, your participants have done this exercise in Jordan. How did it work in your context?
Thanks, Catherine, for this question. Actually, like as we all know, like sometimes we often blind to our things like in our daily life. We're not aware about what's going on because of our busy schedule every day. We think about like how we can just like achieve the main things in our day. And at the same time, like we are not recognizing what's going on, like surrounding us. And that actually, especially this exercise, actually took me and the participants to a different area, to different zone, which is like we started actually to reflect step by step while we're going through this journey as a map, as this activity. So the first thing it was like, okay, understanding the situation, that like how we practice our daily life, how we go, what's going on, what happened around us. Then at that, like we create the recognition, so people they start to like to build this kind of recognition. And especially this map, like this activity helps people to visualize it. Actually, they live like the situation as they are like at the same situation. So like from there, actually, and that's also connected to their like daily life. This like actually led them to open their eyes to the violence and discrimination that happens every day, and they're not aware about it, or they're not giving that much attention because they're busy with other things. At the same time, like that's create kind of like build like sense of empathy there, like with the participants. And at the same time, so like having the empathy as it is, it's like we can't take it anywhere. So we translated actually the empathy to become like a mutual responsibility for the whole party, for the all participants who participated in this. So we started to like to change this kind of emotion that it created from different kind of like situation that happened in the past, even like with the person like his or herself, or with like people like they're related or friends or other things. So like people they started to feel each other. So like translating this empathy to responsibilities actually takes efforts. And at the same time, like changing from the mood of like all the like the people they're feeling like empathy with their peers or with the people in the community. The same time, it is like it's like we have to take care, like during this activity we have to open our eyes, because some people they get traumatized again because maybe they passed through something like it's really hard for them or harmful for their like in their life. So it's very important, like maybe I like from my perspective, it's important, especially in this activity, to have like a co-facilitator who can take care actually of participants' feelings, and like also I mean, like manage any situation that happened during this activity. And it was like, to be honest, it was like, it touched my heart, this activity, and like all the participants there. Thank you, Catherine.
Thanks, Hammam. Thanks, Hammam. That's really interesting what you've said there about, you know, opening our eyes and taking away the blinkers to what's happening in the community, leading to a sense of empathy but also a sense of responsibility. I also think your final point about the importance of taking care of participants who may have traumatic life experiences and leaving space for that and having a co-facilitator. These are all really important points, I think, that you've shared with us. Thank you. So now we're going to try doing this exercise in groups. And you're going to automatically be put into a group, so you don't need to do anything yourself to get into the group or to get out of the group at the end. And when you get into the group, you'll be able to see this slide. It has a list of 5 characters on it and a picture of a town with a school, a bus, a police station, places of worship, a market, and so on. Now, in your groups, your task, each group member's task is to pick one character from the list and briefly share, think of one problem that person might face in one place on the map. So I live in Sweden, and I might pick the character woman from the largest minority, which here in Sweden would be a Muslim woman, and pick the bus and say that on public transport, Muslim women in Sweden sometimes experience verbal and physical hate crimes, like being spat at or having their headscarves pulled. So brainstorm together in the groups, with each person adding examples of violations from their own context. There's probably going to be around 5 people in the group, so it's great if everybody can get a chance to share one example briefly, and then feel free to discuss and share more about all your examples. If you're not sure what to do, don't worry, because there will be someone in each group who's ready to get the conversation started and who can help you if anything wasn't clear. We're going to have separate groups for English, French, and Arabic speakers. But when you come back to the plenary after the group work, those of you who are listening to the French or Arabic translation, you need to choose your own language again in the same way you did at the beginning of the meeting. Great, thank you very much. Ida, could you put everyone into groups, please?
So the rooms are open now.
Thank you. Great, and it seems like people are landing in their groups.
So we have group 3 where there's Philip and then only one other person because 2 other people have not joined. Otherwise, everyone is in group.
Maybe we could put Philip and that person in another group. Move them across.
Put them in group 5. No, Scania showed up in group 3, so there's 3 people now. But that Would that be okay?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't
there's-
know if your Naomi Silva Silianka in French group asked for help.
I can't really, you're echoing. I can't hear you, Eric.
I'm sorry. Other message that says that Naomi Silva in the French group asks for help. And I can choose to join breakout room.
Yeah.
But I don't know French that well, so I don't know. Naomi Silva.
She doesn't speak French. She's from Sri Lanka. Please move her into a non-French speaking.
Of course. Sorry.
I don't mind.
Okay.
I've moved her now. She's
Yeah. Thank you.
good. Oh my goodness. Okay, good. Yeah, we only have Sally, group 3, who's probably having some problems, but otherwise everyone's in. Good job. Good job with everything, Catherine.
Well done, Ida.
Yeah. Yeah. So what time do you want me to let them back in? Because they have 1 minute warning.
Okay. I think they're meant to have 10 minutes to discuss. I think they went in about 2 minutes early. So bring them back at 11:36.
So, yeah.
So message at 11:35.
Yes.
Det var jättegott godis, Kristina.
Ja, verkligen. Jag har verkligen frossat här. Så
Tack.
Det
här går.
Ja, verkligen. Man fick klart det en halvtimme. Ja, skönt.
Thanks, Ida. Welcome back to the plenary, everyone. If you're having trouble finding interpretation to French or Arabic, then please do look at the instructions in the chat. Click on the globe in the bottom bar or on the 3 dots if you're on a phone. In the groups, you've just had a tiny taster of what's normally a much longer freedom of religion or belief in my town exercise. Now, obviously, it's easier to do the exercise in real life when you're all in a room and can stand in front of a map and when everyone in the group is from the same place. But I hope you found the discussion in your group interesting anyway. We're now going to move on to our final taster of the course. Sessions 6 and 7 focus on explaining the many different tactics that can be used to promote human rights. This is a precursor to sessions 8 and 9, which focus on action planning. And these tactics sessions include lots of exercises that helps participants to think about the roles that they can play. For example, there's the bystander healer exercise, which helps participants to think about the times when they've witnessed injustices and done nothing, and the times when they've witnessed injustices and they've stood up for somebody or for themselves. And to think about what is it that makes us stand up sometimes and stay silent other times. Ukoa, you've tested the course in Nigeria. How did your participants find this bystander healer exercise? You're muted, Ukoa.
Thank you, Catherine. In fact, the bystander and healer itself was one of the most interesting exercises that we explored in the course of our testing. And the healer exercise was meant to ask the question, what could one do in the midst of human rights for violation? What could I do, or what could we do, or what could we encourage each other to do? So in the course of this testing, it was received with mixed feeling. Mixed feeling in the sense that participants generally felt that in most cases, the test of what could we do in the context of what people face in terms of denials, injustice, we realized that in most cases, we were more or less deaf and dumb, more or less a show of apathy, more or less show of indifference, because we were not the people involved in the cause of violation. We didn't care about what happened to those who experienced that violation. So we felt so remorseful about our inaction when we were expected to have acted to help people to experience justice. Of course, in the course of that, we realized that there were so many tactics that could be employed. Emergency tactics. If people have emergency, there are a lot of emergency tactics which involve building, changing, and healing. And we also saw that these tactics involve building relationship, working together, seeking, and planning and prepare. Whereas most of the group members were not doing that, and were more or less bystanders. And in the course of that preparation, it made us to resolve. The course gave us platform to resolve, not to be bystanders anymore, rather to be healer, because bystander is this indifferent position, apathy in the midst of people suffering all kinds of violence. So the group resolved at the end of that exercise to take concrete steps to ensure that people will not experience injustice when there are provisions for them to get justice. And there were this firm resolution that after the course, we are not going to show any form of apathy. We are going to take concrete steps in ensuring that people will experience justice in their various forms of life. And that was why we resolved to go to schools in the public sphere to do some advocacy, create awareness, and also take concrete steps, positive action that will help people experience justice in their various spheres of life. Thank you for asking.
Thank you very much, Okoa. That's really, really interesting and inspiring to hear about all the action they're taking afterwards. Also interesting to hear about the importance of this feeling realization that the bystander healer exercise gave them. Now I'm going to hand over to Mike, who's the reference group member from Sri Lanka. Mike, go ahead.
Thanks, Catherine and Okoa. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Wonderful. Like Catherine shared, I'm going to talk a bit more about the tactics sessions. Now, session 6 includes a ready-made short presentation to help you introduce 15 tactics for promoting human rights at the community level. And you can now see the tactics listed on the PowerPoint slide. The presentation actually gives a really basic introduction to tactics. It uses the metaphor of fire to represent human rights. Now, the idea behind reflecting on the different ways in which we prevent and stop fires and take care of people affected by fires is to actually help people recognize the different tactics we can use to prevent and stop human rights violations and take care of people who actually face them. Now, after the presentation, there are group work exercises in which participants read and discuss a set of posters. Now, there is a poster explaining each of the 15 tactics in more detail, and for each tactic, there are 1 or 2 story posters that tell real life stories about people who are using these tactics. And if you look at the chat box, I think you can now find a link through which you can access these posters. And finally, now the aim of these tactic sessions is not to give participants in-depth knowledge and skills on any particular tactic, but rather to open their eyes to the many different things that could be done in their community and to inspire them and to go on to learn about, to get organized and to try using the tactics that are most relevant to them. And at the same time, it is also to give them ideas for action, which is then built on in the action planning sessions.
Thank you very much, Mike. We're now going to break into groups to talk about the posters. You can find a link to the posters in the chat, and the posters were actually sent out to you by email before the event. So you may have had time to look through them already. If not, don't worry about it. You can still participate in the exercise. The list of tactics will be on your screen in the groups. Your task is to tell your colleagues in the room the answer to the following questions. So the tactics I think are most important for me or my organization to use in promoting freedom of religion or belief in my context are ... or a tactic I'd like to learn more about is ... Now, our time is fairly limited, so please do get started straight away. I think we're going to have group work for about 8 minutes, 7-8 minutes. Okay, so I'll see you back here in about 7 or 8 minutes. Ida, could you put us into groups?
Yes, there you go.
Plenary, everyone. I hope you had interesting discussions. We are all still coming back here now to the plenary room. It was a short, but it was a sweet discussion in my group at least. So in this session, we have briefly looked at 3 exercises from these resources, and hopefully you have been able to pose your questions and get some answers in the chat. But we have picked up a few key questions that we would like to elaborate a bit more on and pose to our reference group members. Thank you all. I can see you all on the screen here now. This is perfect. So one question we got was, what kind of target audience does this course work for? Who would like to answer this question?
I think it works for all kinds of audience. We have run this with college students. It worked out very well. We ran this for communities, and it worked very well there as well. No level of literacy, but only ensure one thing, that there are no huge gaps between the understanding levels, either age gaps or some degree of coherency has to be there, but it can work in every situation. It's more experiential, and everybody has had experiences of violations of religion or belief in some way or the other. And that is what people realize when they interact with each other, that this is a common problem. This is not only a problem of minority, or it's not only a problem of one section, although vulnerable sections might be experiencing in greater intensity. But it's a problem for all. So it works for all. I don't think it won't work for any section. All sections whose either who are part of silent majority, which perpetuates violations of freedom, they also need to be as much aware as those whose rights are being violated. So it should work for all, and it works for all.
This is great. And as I saw another question in the chat, which was if it is designed for one particular faith group or if it can be a diverse group. And I understand that the last one is how it works, that it is actually designed for bringing people together from different faiths, and they would still be able to discuss and learn together. Would you like to add anything to this, Catherine?
Yeah, I think it's designed to work for interfaith groups, and all 4 of the tests were run with interfaith groups. I think we had Christians, Muslims, Hindus, people of no religion, Baha'i, and Zoroastrian. I think that's the range that was covered in the various groups. So it has been tested with very diverse audiences. But there might be somebody who's listening who's thinking that, yeah, but can I use it just then in my own congregation or in my own, just in one faith community? And that is, of course, it's possible, but I think it, and would also work very well. But obviously, for example, when you do the context analysis exercise, that's going to be richer. The input that you get to that exercise will be richer in a mixed faith group, but it would also be useful in a single faith group to help people to look beyond their own community. So I just wanted to add that.
Thank you. And another question we got, and feel free to grab the microphone, because this is a sensitive issue for a lot of people, and maybe in the group there are people that do not know each other. So how did you manage to create the safe space for the participants? Did the course help you with that in any way?
Yes. Well, in my case, they were actually mostly young people, only a few adults. So, and most of them were seeing each other for the first time. And what we did was that most of the workshops, we have to group people from different contexts. We have to interchange the workshops. We have to make sure that if you belong to a particular group in this workshop, we will rotate you, put you in another group, in another workshop. So to help to break that barrier of just being familiar with a particular set of people. Because this course means different things to different people. To some, it was information, they have gotten knowledge that was power. And to others, they were seeing it as a tool for justice. They were already facing injustice in their various contexts. So it meant that this was a tool for justice. Whereas those who were not facing justice, it became a tool to arm them, to equip them, to ensure that when injustice comes in the future, they will know how to adapt and address that injustice. So the diversity was managed by that way of interchanging process, interchanging exercises, so that at the end, they were able to come to blend and know each other after the workshop.
This is an interesting approach. Thank you. We are approaching the end. Is there anything you would like to add or comment on now before we close?
Yeah, if you excuse me, Christine, I would like to highlight and also to confirm what my colleague mentioned. It is very important, actually, especially if you work with the people from different religions and different groups. It's like, especially this program, I mean, this kind of program, we need to have ground rules. I mean, we have to have mutual ground between each other as participants. So it's very important, actually, once you start this program or before starting going to the activities, to frame up everything, why we doing this, what we do, like, and what's the result, where we gonna reach. So taking people and like in this like awake-ward moment and like make them like understanding what's the risky points. We're gonna discuss this and that will help actually people to go through this smoothly. I know there will be like many like tough discussions, but at the same time we came up with the results that everyone like everyone like happy about, like the achievements that we came up with. Thank you very much.
Thank you all very much. Unfortunately, this was all we had time for. But we are very grateful for your contributions, especially to the reference group here. And for all of you who have participated today, thank you so much. We really hope that you will find this useful and that you will be able to use it wherever you are and wherever you are working. Just before you go, please allow me to make a couple of encouragements. So please share these resources with your colleagues, your networks, and talk about them, how they might be useful. Do feel free to tell us and share your experiences of using the course materials. This is the only way that we will be able to further develop and improve the material. You can find link to the course webpage in English, French, and Arabic in the chat, where you can contact us. And do sign up for news from the Freedom of Religion or Belief Learning platform. We will not be spamming you with emails. We will only be notifying you when we have interesting news, such as a new learning resource or a new language available, or an event such as this one. And finally, please do help us to get in touch with networks for freedom of religion or belief, interfaith dialogue, peace building, and human rights education in your country, because the Forb Learning Platform's purpose is to serve the people and organizations who promote these rights, who promote justice, and who promote peace in their societies. And we do this by providing learning resources first and foremost. And the only way to do this is if we can get in touch with them, and that is through you. So thank you. Finally, big thank you again to everyone who has attended, and especially to our reference group members and everyone who has contributed to this. A big round of applause, and we will stay in touch. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.